I make no apologies for featuring black women, because I know most of you black men out there won't, so I'm gonna feature them on my channel every time that I get. Because without black women in my life, I wouldn't be where I was, and neither would most of you guys out there. So let's pay big respect to black women as they continue to succeed against the odds. And this week, Ife Thompson, 24, talking like somebody with the wisdom of 60, entrepreneur, successful charity founder. You're going to hear more from Ife Thompson in Lee Jasper's Drive Time interview coming up next. Ife Thompson, 24, welcome to Lee Jasper's Drive Time.
It's great to be here.
So you qualify, you finished law school?
Yes.
What did you qualify in? Do tell.
So I've just done the bar course. So that is the route for those that want to be a barrister. So I'll focus more on advocacy, and I wish to specialise in crime and family law. Like to say I'll be freeing all the mandem very soon.
We hear you. And is that something you always wanted to be? Was it an ambition of yours from?
Yeah, I think living in Brixton, particularly in the council estate that I lived in, and seeing the high levels of poverty, seeing the way the police interact with my community, and the high levels of police brutality and harassment from the police, and how this actually end up in disproportionate numbers of black males in the criminal justice system, I feel like I owe my community a duty to actually help them by having an advocate that understands where they're coming from, their lived experience, and can bring this to the courtroom with them. So I think from the area that I lived in, I'm wanting to be an advocate for justice and ensuring that those in my community are properly represented and they can get justice. I think, yeah, my circumstances drew me to the profession.
So it's a vocation for you?
Yeah.
And so you've qualified with a vocational passing to help your community. What did you do after leaving university? Where did Ife Thompson end up?
So when I left university, it was quite interesting whirlwind of stuff that happened. So as you do, leave with a law degree, and I thought that I'd go straight into the paralegaling world and go into a law firm. And I was applying, left, right, and centre. Wasn't getting paralegal jobs, so I ended up in Sainsbury's. Yeah, a law degree to Sainsbury's. It was trying times. However, I was fortunate enough to have an internship at Barking and Dagenham Council. So I was working with them for a little while, doing a lot of legal stuff, and getting that legal knowledge under my belt enabled me to apply for paralegal job and actually get them in the end. Whilst this was happening, we fast forward to 2017, and this is just after in 2016, when I left uni, it was just after the height of the killings in America. So you had Alton Sterling, you had Eric Gardner, Black Lives Matter really took off. So that's when BLAM was actually created, which is my charity. And so we had a static protest in Brixton. So once we had that, I said to myself, we can't just have this protest in Brixton, that's it. So at the back of my mind, it was, we're going to develop BLAM. But, you know, I was still working in Sainsbury's, so it was like, it wasn't coming into fruition. Then April 2017, we launched BLAM as a charity. We had Diane Abbott come and support. We had Viva Moon. We had Joshua Verisami, one of the key members of Black Lives Matter, come to that event. And we also had Carl Loco, social entrepreneur. So we had a lot of really big names that actually came through to that event. And that was catalyst for BLAM. BLAM stands for Black Learning, Achievement and Mental Health. And that event was really just to enable us to launch our free African and Caribbean history project for children aged 8 to 10. However, at that event, we had such good feedback. Even Joshua Verisami from Black Lives Matter said to me, if I've been on many panels, but this is top 2. And I said, if this guy from Black Lives Matter who's been on loads of panels and it's top 2, and he's saying we've got to do another event, the audience telling us when's the next event. I was like, BLAM was kind of set up more for the young people, the 8 to 10-year-olds, but if you guys want us to do something where you can be the centre and you want a space where you can come together, express yourself as a Black Briton, network with social capital, I'm here to serve the community. So if that's what you want, that's what you're going to get. And that's how we started doing our hub events, where we had loads of various professionals coming down to the events. We've had many Black barristers come and support. We've had the Garden Court Chambers come and support our event. We've had Glenn Atkins, the A&R for Emily Sunday, come and support. We've covered events like being black in a white space, because a lot of Black professionals are going into workspaces that are traditionally very white or still very white, and it's just trying to find ways to deal with microaggressions, ways to thrive in these environments. And we think it's very, very important to have that intergenerational dialogue, because we are not in our own right here by ourselves. We have parents, grandparents that have been here, that have fought the fight before we got here. And we think it's important to go forward with the knowledge that they have and empower ourselves and ensure the community can grow, do for self, and thrive in spaces that it finds itself in. And BLAM is creating that by doing the hub events that we do as a space for young people to come together, learn from those that are older or those that are already in the profession they want to be in.
Thinking about young black people in the United Kingdom today, I was wondering about your assessment. It's kind of ironic that you spent all of that time and energy qualifying in law to end up working part-time in Sainsbury's. But with the level of black graduate unemployment being as high as 33% currently, that's not an unusual experience for young black people. I was just wondering how you saw the challenges facing young people, and whether or not working in Sainsbury's for somebody who is clearly overqualified for the job is something that's common amongst our people.
So I would say what is definitely affecting our people is racism. Racism manifests itself in very different ways, whether that be in employment, whether that be in housing, whether that be in access opportunities. And we do see a lot of black graduates coming out of this education system, and this idea of meritocracy is a farce. We come out, there's no jobs waiting for us. We come out, we've heard recently about the BME pay gap. So this meritocracy that if you work hard, all these opportunities will be available to you, it's just clearly not there. And we've also seen statistics that say that the black graduate pay is 23% less. So even when they've controlled the data, we're still getting paid less for the same work that we're doing. So we're seeing how effectively us not being in the spaces that we need to be in, or us not being able to get jobs in sectors that we rightly qualified to be in, is affecting the sort of areas that black people are going into. It's discouraging black talent from going to university. Many black people in the UK live in high levels of poverty, and most people that are in high levels of poverty want to exasperate themselves and be in a place where they're financially secure, which is why you see a lot of black talent are going to football, other areas, not necessarily academic, just to make money. However, we're seeing that we are actually losing some black talent that could be going to other areas or specialise in other areas, but knowing that the system is so racist and doesn't actually allow black people that are doing well to thrive in certain spaces, it doesn't allow us to actually get the best from our community. So I think definitely to have more doing for self initiatives, initiatives where we know equal opportunity will be applied to, because I don't see why graduates should be working in Sainsbury's. They have no business, but it wasn't uncommon. Many of my friends ended up working in Sainsbury's or had to do jobs that had nothing to do with their career path because simply couldn't get into the job market, and they were very much overqualified. But if you're living in high levels of poverty and you need to find finance, then you're going to do what you can. Another issue that I've noted is that a lot of these internships that black people need to get into, the professions, the careers they want to get into, are unpaid. So only people that can really go into those internships are those that are middle class, those that already have money or have the family backing that can allow them to work for free. I live in Brixton, I've got siblings, I support my mum and my dad, so it's not really feasible for me to take a 3-month unpaid job when I know that I've got student debt, I've got to help my family, I've got to help my siblings. So a lot of us are not even allowed to alleviate ourselves because of poverty as well. So
the racism producing the kind of economic exclusion means that for black graduates who are coming from poor families, their career options are even more limited. One, by the discrimination they face in the recruiting and interview rooms, but also they just don't have the kind of options in front of them to take career advantage of internships or other opportunities, which are not paid.
Yes.
Because they're so substantively in debt. In relation to that, and in relation to unemployment and some of the issues facing, what would you say are the solutions to those sorts of issues?
Well, I tend to look at America as a case study because there's not a lot of research about the black rich community in the UK. But we've seen that in America, the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs are black women. So I think it's more about us kind of doing for self and not taking permission, starting our own businesses. I mean, I know there's people from my university that started their own business. There's one guy called Darren that started Trim It App. I'm seeing loads of people popping up with their own little startups. People that are doing stuff on Instagram. I think that is probably the way in which the community is going to be able to create their own wealth, because it seems as if even though we do this meritocracy, it's not actually working, it's not very beneficial, because if you're not getting called to job interviews because of you have a black sounding name, then we need to really rethink what we're going to be doing in the future.
To hear you say do for self for one so young, I think is great testimony that you've definitely got the right vision for the way forward. How do you see yourself contributing to that self-help economy, that self-help philosophy?
Well, I have my own, I'm a seamstress as well, so I have my own company, Ife's Garments, so I make garments for the community, and as a lawyer I plan to be self-employed as well. So I think just the idea of being able to not rely on anyone for my work, but actually get into the habit of going out there, creating a job for myself or finding ways in which my expertise can be used. I think that is a way for doing for self. And then BLAM is going to go into schools as well. I think my part of tithing, giving back to the community is empowering young people that I meet and ensuring that they can reach their goals too, and seeing whatever I can do to help them reach their goals.
Sounds absolutely brilliant. Now, you've got an event coming up quite shortly, which we're all desperate to hear more about. So do tell us more about the BLAM event.
So we have an event on the 30th of October, which is next week, Wednesday, 1 week to go, guys. And that event is called Self-Made 101, Black British Edition, in which we're going to be looking specifically at Marcus Garvey's principle and why they are still relevant to Black Britons today. And we're going to be looking at 6 panellists that are self-made Black Britons, including our dearly Jasper, who will be on the panel, along with Viva Moon, Bouncer Play Dirty, Melissa Knight and Dahlia McGoo, both barristers.
Wow.
And the founder of Love Die Throw, which is a musical, talking about the importance of basically Black people doing for self, looking at how they have been able to do for self, and just giving our attendees encouragement, tips on how to overcome procrastination, how they can grow their social capital, and literally just how they were able to succeed. I think no man is an island of himself, so it's important that each one teaches one, and that event is basically doing that. And also I'm very conscious of us having those legends in our community like Jasper, coming back to give back to young people and have that interracial dialogue that we don't often get.
Well, it's been a delight talking to you. I must say, how refreshing it is for a man of my age and experience to hear young people talking about do for self and Marcus Garvey. If there's one lesson I could give you all for the future, both here and anywhere else you may choose to live, it is to build your economy so that you are self-sufficient and independent. But Ife Thompson, you've been on Ljdt Jasper Drive Time, and we've been delighted to have you. Thank you.